What up, YouTube? R to the double E-ZON coming at you once again. And this is also a response to one of my subscribers, the Corbin. He had asked me if I was ever going to do a Wii U post-mortem video, which I just did and just uploaded right now. And also he asked me if I was ever going to come out with a Xenoblade Chronicles X review, which I did say I would do, and I never got around to doing it. So since he's asking for it, why not, man? Xenoblade Chronicles X is one of my favorite titles on the Wii U. Bar none. Hands down, phenomenal game. And if you go back to that time period, which was maybe a couple months before my divorce, you would see videos of me in the man cave that I had in the house, and I would talk about how I was not an RPG fan at all. RPGs just never appealed to me. I felt that they were more of a chore to play than they were fun. Way too much, crafting and leveling up and grinding and all that. And never was really into them. But as I kept seeing, because it was for years going on, this game took a while to come out, and as I kept revealing more and more stuff about Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I kept seeing the scope of that world and how artistically beautiful that world was to explore, how expansive it was, the wildlife, just the scope and the scale of the game that that Monolith Soft was attempting to bring out on inferior hardware. I could not pass it up, and I even said it. I was like, that Christmas, I was like, I am getting Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I hope that this is the game that makes me a fan of RPGs. Fast forward, years later, yeah, man, yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles X got me to not only consider RPGs, but to look forward to them. That's why I'm looking forward to Xenoblade 2 on the Switch when it drops later this year. Man, but you're talking about a game, man. I loved the story. A lot of people were saying that the story wasn't as good as the original Xenoblade, and I wouldn't know because I didn't get to play that on the Wii. But I liked the story that the game presented. I mean, the game let you be your own avatar. The game let you create your character from the ground up, how he or she looks, what race they were, alien, human, whatever. And then there was no real story about your character because you were creating the story as you played. But there was an overlying story in the game. And basically, just to sum it up, the Earth had been destroyed because it got caught in the middle of an interstellar war between two warring alien factions, and the Earth was destroyed in the process. Now, the last remaining human beings got off of Earth in a bunch of giant ships that they called arks, kind of like Noah's Ark, the biblical story. And the only surviving ship, the only surviving ark was I think it was called the White Whale, was the ship that your character was on. And that ship, badly damaged, crash lands on this foreign planet. But the planet seems to be inhabitable by humans, and it has its own ecosystem, its own wildlife, beautiful, expansive world, a planet called Mirror. And the game opens up with you being awakened from space stasis, space sleep, whatever, hibernation, if you will. You're woken up by, man, I can't believe I forgot her name. Damn, I forgot her name. I can't believe it. One of the main characters. So it's a female character, white hair, beautiful design. And she wakes you up and informs you about what's going on, and then basically the game begins from there. And you find your way back to New LA, which is awesome. I love that name. I love that concept. And it's where the living quarters of that ship, the White Whale, crash landed, and they basically established a city, a civilization there. But everything outside the gates of New LA is unexplored wilderness. And it's awesome because you not only get to see the wildlife, the weather conditions, how immersive and expansive that world is, but as you explore it, you begin to see that Monolith Soft and Nintendo pulled off something amazing because the world is that big and there is virtually no loading. I mean, you can explore all of Primordia, which is that main continent that your New LA is in. And before long, you see yourself crossing a canyon or whatever, or an ocean, and there's no loading, and you come on the shore of a brand new continent with a whole new ecosystem and a whole new set of wildlife and obstacles and perils and all that. And it's just amazing how big and expansive that world is. And you begin to see how amazing the combat system is. Instead of your, to me, boring turn-based RPG battle system, it's more of a live action battle system where shit is going on. They're attacking you, you're attacking them, you're using whatever arcs or powers you have, abilities you have while they're using theirs against you, and it's more real time. And you can move around and fight while it's going on. It's awesome. I love the soundtrack in the game, especially when you get to Noctilum, which is another continent there. It's a very jungle-like environment. It looks a lot like if you're a Star Wars fan and you've seen Revenge of the Sith, the planet Felucia, where I forgot her name, but the Jedi Master with the two big things on her head, the alien one, gets betrayed by the stormtroopers. That kind of environment. It looks like that. The soundtrack, the song. Actually, I looked it up on YouTube. The song is called One by One. That's an amazing piece of music, man. It just gives you chills while you're traversing that environment. Nighttime, daytime, real time passing by. It's awesome, man. But yeah, like I love the story. I love how now you are on this planet and you need to make a way forward for human beings to survive and to cultivate this planet. But at the same time, your character and all the human characters you come across in that game, the Corbin's obviously played this game, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything for him. Anybody that's watching this, there might be some spoilers if you haven't played the game already, but you've been warned. Every human character you come across in this game is not really human. And what I mean by that is they are human, but the physical representation of them that you are seeing as characters in the game, yourself included, are called MIMs. And they're basically like robots that have artificial intelligence, have emotion. They can cry, they can be happy, they can have relationships and all that. But they're not the actual humans. The actual humans are unconscious in what's called the life core. And that's what you're searching for throughout the whole game. And there is a countdown because when the timer reaches 0, everyone in that life core will die. They need to be awakened and found or they're going to die. And once that time runs out, them and their MIMs die and the human race perishes. So there's a sense of like urgency, but it's not an actual timer counting down in the game like, oh, if you don't do this by a certain time, no, it's a timer that's going off, but it's the best way I can explain it is like it's not actually going on in real time. So you could take forever to do a mission and you don't have to worry about time running out and game over. But the story, the overlying harrowing theme is that over your head is this clock that in the story you need to beat that clock. But in the actual gameplay, you don't need to beat that clock. So hopefully I'm explaining myself. And it's just awesome, man. The story is great. The characters are awesome. The interactions between them. And what makes this such a great RPG is not only the leveling up and the grinding and all that. Grinding in this game is actually not tedious. It's actually fun because there's so much to explore and so much to encounter that you never feel like you're just being repetitive. You know what I'm saying? But also what makes it a great RPG is the decision making. As in so many other great RPGs, is will you take on this quest? Will you not? Will you help this character? Will you not? Will you be a dick? Will you be good? Will you be bad? Awesome, man. I love that. And what else? And the way the story unfolds as you go from chapter to chapter, just seeing more, finding out more about the good alien races that want to cooperate with humans and that want to help each other survive, and then the bad ones that want to see humans wiped out and that want to see all the other good alien races wiped out. The war that's happening behind the scenes that you're basically being dropped in the middle of. The themes, when you're in New LA and you see the integration of new alien races being taken in, how some people are for it and some people are against it. There's a lot of undertones of religion, racism, modern day issues being brought out in this game that just make it all the more real as you experience it. What else, man? What else can I say? The scales. From the very beginning of this game, and even from when you buy the game and you look at the cover art, there's a giant mech on the cover. So you're like, I know I'm going to be flying that or piloting that soon. Well, you play for hours before you get to that, and you have a blast. But when you finally unlock that and get your license to be able to pilot a Skell, the game changes. And then when you get your Skell, you can walk around and turn into basically like a vehicle and, traverse the areas faster. But when you unlock the flight module for the Skell that allows you to take off into space, into the sky, and go up high, low, and just fly and navigate that way, the game becomes a whole different game. The world shows you at that point when you're able to take flight just how expansive it is. You're already thinking this is the biggest world I've ever played around in. But when the verticality jumps into effect, it opens up tenfold more. And you're just like, holy shit, it's even bigger, much bigger than I even thought it was. Amazing, amazing. When I unlocked, as I said before, when I unlocked my flight module for my Skell, that game in part became Pilot Wings 4 for me, which is one of my favorite game of all time is Pilot Wings 64. So I was just flying around, exploring shit. It was amazing, man. The combat becomes even more explosive and even just bigger and on a grander scale when you fight inside one of your skills. I mean, I had my 4-player party, me and the 3 people that I had with me. They were all in skills, so we looked like a giant squad of fucking mechs going to war against, you know, some of the biggest creatures and bosses in the game. Just amazing, man. I mean, there's nothing that I can say bad about this game. Uses the gamepad very well. I found that out the hard way because when I got the game that Christmas, my gamepad was sent in for repair. So I had a Pro Controller, so I was like, I'm going to play with the Pro Controller. But without the gamepad, you can't fast travel, and you can't access a lot of things that you have access to with the gamepad. You know, your division spoils. You know, sometimes the division that you join up with, they'll go out and they'll do certain things, and you can reap rewards from that. Money, resources, whatever. You don't have access to that without the gamepad. You know, you can't fast travel to different parts of the map. You literally have to walk around everywhere when you don't have that gamepad. You know, it has a great map system on the gamepad. Everything's easily accessible, and it just enhances the game. And especially in a game like this that's very sci-fi, like, you know, having the gamepad and all the different options on it, you kind of feel like you're in there because you feel like this is something that they would be holding in the game themselves, using it to access different options and things like that. I mean, I did not get to beat it. It's something I really have to go back and do. I got to, I think there's 14 chapters in the game, and I was like on chapter 12. I was right there. But it was so fun, man. And that's one of those games that, like, it's just like one of my favorite franchises of all time, which I actually have on the background right here on my PS3. I'm about to get ready to play it. Far Cry. It's just like Far Cry. I've never beaten a Far Cry game, ever. And I don't care, because I still spend upwards of 90 to 100 hours in each one, because I just love going through the story as much as I can, but just the sense of exploration and freedom and feeling like you're really a part of that world. You create your own adventure every time you turn it on and every time you play. I love games like that. I don't necessarily need to get to the end of them. Don't get me wrong. I would love to get to the end of Xenoblade Chronicles X to see the ending, see how everything turns out. See if you and that main female character, I think her name is Elma, if I recall. I don't know. But I would love to see if you and your character and her end up together. Because there seems to be that kind of love interest very subliminally under the surface as you watch their interactions. And just see where everybody ends up, man. And see how the story ends. But it's the type of game that you don't need to beat. It's the type of game that you can have hours and hours and hours of immersive, enjoyable gameplay in every time. I never sat down and played Xenoblade Chronicles X for 15 or 20 minutes. Every time I sat down and played it, it was 2 hours or more. I shit you not. I spent, last time I checked, I want to say it was over 80 hours in that game. Just no time wasted. Everything was fun. Everything was amazing. I can go back and play it now and still get lost in that world and enjoy it, man. Kind of game that it would be very hard to get bored of. So at the end, if you want my take on this game, I think it is hands down, one of the, I'd say, top 5 titles in the entire Wii U library that Wii U owners need, man. If you're not an RPG fan at all, I never was, and it made me one. But if you're not, and you don't think that's your kind of thing, I can understand you passing on the game. But, man, just for the sheer achievement of how huge that game is, how beautiful it is, how seamless it is, how engaging it is, again, on inferior hardware when compared to the mighty PS4 and all that, I don't see how Wii U owners can pass up at least playing that game. It is just phenomenal. It's a definite must-buy, in my opinion, man. Xenoblade Chronicles X is amazing, man. So, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. The Corbin and everyone else watching, God bless y'all. Stay gaming. Peace.